We went through every single emotion. Don't feel like walking is cheating. Horrendous, I'm not gonna lie to you. You know the song that's like, run fast for your mother and fast for your father? And it was very humbling. Just quit. What's your time? How fast did you do it in? Like, you learn so much about yourself and your own resilience. It's more than a race. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Steph Ellswood if you are new here. This is a place on the internet that I'm hoping is a safe place for us to get to know each other, where we can just talk about loads of different things. We basically just chat shit and have a good time. Today is a video that I've wanted to do for a long time. I actually ran the marathon in 2021, so it has been a while. I took a brief hiatus from YouTube, so I never really delved into it, shared my experience and anything that I learnt. I know when I started my training, a lot of the videos that I watched was along the lines of how to run a marathon as a beginner from the perspective of someone who loves running. I thought it'd be beneficial to hear from someone that actually hates running, who really struggled running the marathon, and all of the mistakes and lessons that I learned along the way. I have also asked my boyfriend a lot of questions, who is an ultra marathon running coach. Like, that is his game. He's been an athlete for 10 years. So I'm hoping that through my experience and also with his knowledge, this will be a helpful video for anyone that's thinking about it or even thinking about just starting their running journey. So let's go back to 2020 when I was supposed to run the marathon. I was actually asked by Alzheimer's Research UK. So my granddad had dementia and Alzheimer's and was really, really poorly. I spoke about it quite a lot online. It's horrible and I don't wish that on anyone, and I'm sorry to anyone that has been through that experience or seen relatives, friends or loved ones go through it. I was invited on a shoot with them and I was like, absolutely, anything that you're doing, count me in. Not realising that they also do a lot of runs. So they were like, well, yeah, we can get you a place at the London Marathon if you want to fundraise for us. And I was like, well, I've just said I'll do anything for you, so looks like I'm running the London Marathon. And when I say I am the least sporty person, I trained as a dancer, but very, very different disciplines, right? I was picked last for every team at school. Like, it's not something that is in my blood. I go to the gym, I do little workouts, I dance a bit, but that is it. Like, I'm not a sporty person. I try. Don't get me wrong, I will always give it my all, but it'll be embarrassing. So when they said, do you want to do this run? I was like, well, I feel like I kind of have to. And my biggest aspiration was to run the London Marathon and have my granddad waiting at the finish line. I just thought that would be a beautiful moment. Unfortunately, as you obviously know, COVID-19 hit and everyone went into lockdown, so I didn't actually get a chance to run the London Marathon in 2020. It was postponed till that October, then postponed again until the following October, so October 2021. And sadly, during that time, my granddad actually passed away, which was really difficult for my entire family, and I just really lost my motivation for it. So I'm hoping that with this video I can show you how I got it back and how I actually managed to cross the finish line and achieve it and all that kind of stuff. I want to talk about the training itself, workouts outside of running, nutrition, kit, race day, preparation. So let's delve into it. I think my main thing for how I stayed motivated, don't get me wrong, it definitely ebbs and flows, especially as those long runs start to pick up and the weather's rubbish and life gets in the way. The main thing was my why, and I think just having some journaling around that, or having some notes on your phone around why you're running it, just to reflect on when times get hard, like when you can't be asked or when it is raining and storming and snowing. And for me, it was more so, I want to cross that finish line and I want to raise a ton of money for a charity dear to mine and my family's hearts. To anyone that's watching this that did donate during that time, you helped us raise over £25,000 for Alzheimer's Research UK, which is just incredible. And the hours of research that has funded is, oh, I've got goosebumps, is life-changing. Not gonna get upset, but it's life-changing to families who are going through a shit time with that horrible freaking disease. So thank you for that. I'm gonna compose myself and get back to my list. In terms of the training plans can be expensive. There are a lot of free training plans online. I followed one from an application called Runner, which I will link below. It's not an ad, but it's something that I really, really believe in. I basically knew that if I had to run more than twice a week, I probably wouldn't stick to it. Just kind of wanted to do the bare minimum to make me strong enough to complete the marathon. I wasn't pushed for time. I didn't have a time goal in mind. In the application, you can choose the distance that you're running, sent them over the days that I'd prefer to run, and they can create a bespoke plan for you. One thing that I didn't realise is I thought that I would have to run a marathon before running a marathon. I know that sounds stupid, but I thought I would have to work my way up to the final distance to be able to run it on the day, but you actually don't. I think my longest run was actually just over well, a little bit over a half marathon before race day, and it's more about the accumulation of mileage that you put in your legs in the training process. And I will say, training is the hardest part. Race day, it's just ticking a box and just enjoying the experience, but the training is where the hard work starts. I started as a complete beginner. The moment I got my place confirmed, my boyfriend and I went out on a 2K run. No word of a lie, I thought I was going to pass away. I was like, there is no way in hell that I can run a marathon. I felt so unfit. The thing that has been very enjoyable as a beginner, you improve far more quickly than I think you probably will realise. The more you improve, the more it builds your confidence, and obviously not every single run is going to be a personal best, and I don't think that should be your aspiration. But when you do have those little moments where you've hit a little milestone, or you do your first 5k, or you do your first enjoyable 5k where you feel like you could have gone longer, these are things that you need to celebrate and just cheer yourself on and just be your own cheerleader, because like I said, it can be really lonely. 80% of the running that you do in training should be low intensity at a conversational pace. Another misconception for me was that I'm going to have to push myself every single run if I want to achieve these goals, but the more you push yourself on a run, the longer recovery time that you actually need. And yes, I did hill sprints and intervals, but I actually started to enjoy that because they would be when I would push my boundaries and push myself to the extremes. And then it was nice in parallel with my other run, which was more pulling it back, conversational pace. I don't know if anyone watching this finds comfort in that, but I definitely found comfort in that when I received my plan and realised that actually this could be enjoyable and I could start to build my confidence and fitness up slowly rather than going all in, all guns blazing. If on your plan it does say recovery run, it means recovery run. Like, don't try and push for a personal best on that. Like, your body will thank you for running at a slow pace, really stripping it back. If ever I did pick up niggles and stuff, sometimes I'd just sit on an exercise bike and I'd still be working my cardiovascular system, and you don't realise that all of these things that feel slightly easier are actually benefiting you. So a recovery run where you feel, oh, I didn't go very fast then, but that felt relatively easy, that's still going to be benefiting you more than you might give yourself credit for. Know that you can't pound your body all the time. You have to give it that rest and recovery for it to be able to sustain you for the duration of the training, because it can be grueling and horrendous. I'm not going to lie to you, it can be horrendous. That's why you need to remember your why. I did like my sprint and interval training on a Wednesday, and then I would do my longer run on a weekend. It gave me a nice amount of time in between. Obviously you can run more than twice a week. The day before and the day after your long runs you should try and have as rest days. Just from personal experience, doing a long run on fresh legs builds your confidence, because you're like, oh, I could do this all day when you first start, and then having the day after to recover is also really nice as well. Rest is king. I'm very good at resting. Let's talk about the sessions outside of running training. So there's certain strength workouts that I found really beneficial, warm-ups, cool-downs, all that jazz. They actually coincide with the running training. It can not only improve your performance, but it can also prevent injury, which is obviously so important, especially if you're a beginner moving in a new way. Maybe your technique's not the greatest when you first start running, so you're pounding the pavement and all that kind of stuff. I definitely incorporated some weighted rehab circuits into my week, so I wasn't just doing 2 sessions a week. I was doing 2 runs a week, but I was incorporating other little bits and pieces just to stabilise those muscles, stabilise my joints, and just work on performance and injury prevention, to be honest. Alongside that, I also did incorporate some more yoga-esque style things, and like, YouTube is such a hub for information. Like, I would sometimes type in yoga for runners, cool downs after a run, warm-ups for before a run, things like that, and there's so much credible information out there that you can search it and follow along with some. Like, there's I don't know her real name, but her YouTube name is Boho Beautiful, and she's got wonderful yin yoga practices that sometimes of an evening I would literally just put that on for maybe half an hour and just really stretch out, even use that as some of my rest and recovery. Always stretch immediately post run, even if it's just 5 minutes. Your body is warm, it's mobile, it's ready to be kind of put into these weird and wonderful positions, but just focusing on like hip flexors, quads, glutes, definitely the calves. All of those stretches will accumulate over time and benefit you long term. Also tips for like celebrating your training, because like I said, it can be really lonely. There's lots of things that you can do along the way to get people involved or to kind of boost your morale or feel part of a community. I did my first park run last weekend and I was like, why did I never do this during my marathon training? I bloody loved it. It was so fun to feel part of a community and just knowing that everyone's starting at 9 AM. It was amazing. So like, there's things like park runs, there's local 10Ks is you could sign up for. I remember I did the London Landmarks half marathon, which was such an enjoyable race, by the way. I recommend it to anyone. And that made my first half marathon less daunting as well, because you're almost blinded by the excitement of all the entertainment and the other runners. I did some other races with Ultra X, which were more trail based, which again is a different discipline, and you're running in nature with beautiful views. I feel like I'm a bit of a child that just needs to be distracted along the way, so those races really helped me. And then I could turn to friends and be like, I've signed up to this 5k, do you want to do it with me? And it just means that you're not doing all of those super long runs by yourself, because that can be really daunting. I've also seen other people whose partners or friends maybe rode a bike with them on some of their long runs. I also made a spreadsheet of every run that I did, so it wasn't to worry about time or anything like that, but it was just to make a note of the distances that I'd actually ran, because then you can look back and be like, oh my god, I've run this much over the last 6 months. I can definitely do a marathon now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just a really nice incentive to check in and see the accumulation of miles on your legs and be like, wow, training really is the hardest part. The race day is literally just ticking a box and doing the performance and going through the motions. Do you know what I mean? I tried not to get too wrapped up in time. I didn't want it to become a massive pressure that I had to run a marathon super fast, and I didn't want to add that greater expectation onto myself because it was already such a big feat. I didn't want to add that extra pressure. I forgot to mention in plans and stuff, obviously there's things like Couch to 5k. I believe that's an NHS app that is free. I will have to double check that, but having a plan to follow, it's like going to the supermarket with a shopping list. You're there, you're productive, you get what you need and you go, and I definitely found that beneficial within my entire training as well. Let's talk about nutrition. Now, I have a history with an eating disorder, and I've spoken about that across Instagram and YouTube for my entire career, and I had obviously heard that when you're running long distance you need to eat whilst you run, and obviously from my background it was always like burning calories to be thin, so why would you eat whilst you're moving? It seemed very counterintuitive to me. So I really enjoyed this process, and I feel like any subconscious learned behaviours or rhetorics in my mind all had to be cleared out because there was no room for it. If I didn't eat on runs, I would notice that I was super fatigued, or if I hadn't fueled enough on the day of my long runs, I would be completely depleted the next day. And it was really exciting to learn that kind of intuitiveness around nutrition as a whole as a result of my training. It does feel weird sometimes running and eating, but you need to do it to make sure that you can go the miles. One thing that I definitely learned early on was I would have a big bowl of porridge probably about 2 hours before my long runs, just to make sure that I was fully fueled, but also that it had digested, my gut had sorted itself out before you start running, because you need to practice your nutrition. Especially early on, you need to trial different breakfasts. Does toast work better for you? Does rice pudding? Does porridge? And then when it comes to actually race day snacks, again, you need to train your gut, because if you haven't run and eaten at the same time before, it is a discipline in itself. And I don't know the full science of it, but I believe it's because all of your blood leaves your stomach that it's harder to digest food. That could be an absolute lie, and I'm sorry if it is. And I remember the first time I tried to run on a really long run and eat, I got such a bad stitch. I ate far too much, and like, you have to learn and make those mistakes before race day to make sure that you can have a seamless, or as seamless as possible, performance on the day. I keep saying performance as if it's a show. It's not a show, it's absolute hell. No, I'm joking. I'm really glad I did it. I am really glad I did it. Like I said, I would probably about 2 hours, 2.5 hours before I'd have the porridge bowl, maybe half an hour before of a really long run day I'd have a banana, let that go down and then go, and I'd always carry snacks and water with me. I will talk through kit and how I obviously carried those things later in this video, but I would always have essentials in my race pack. This is actually a point that Lewis has sent me, so I'm going to read it to you because it's very helpful. Any run over 90 minutes needs fueling. 40 to 60 grams of easily digestible carbs per hour, eat every 30 minutes is a good way to think of it. With my first really long run that was over 90 minutes, he told me to start eating from 45 minutes and then eat every half an hour. And when I say eat, I'm not talking 3-course meal. I'm talking like little bits of snacks that you enjoy. So some of my favourites, I always loved dried mango. I loved chewing it because it takes a long time to chew. I loved the sweetness of it. It was easy to store in my race pack. I knew it wasn't going to leak or go soggy. I used to always have sweets because they're obviously really quick release. You can obviously get gels and race bars and all of that kind of stuff, but I would say definitely practice with those, because I know a lot of people that have tried the gels and shit themselves in public. Just be careful, test them out. You need to see what works for you and your body. My partner loves eating dates. I also had bananas in my race pack sometimes. I also always had one water and one squash, because sometimes water just, I felt like it wasn't quenching my thirst, whereas a little bit of squash gives you that sweetness in your mouth when your mouth is dry as hell, and just made hydration a little bit more enjoyable as well. Post run, again, he has a note in here that says post run, a carbohydrate and protein refuel, so getting those calories in straight away afterwards. One thing I will say is running training makes you so hungry. Like, I was hungry all the time, and I just had to listen to my body, eat when I wanted a snack, make sure that I was hydrated throughout the day, because otherwise you can feel your energy levels dip. Like, I know that on my Wednesday runs I either aimed to do them in the morning or on a lunch break, because if I left it until the evening, excuses creep up, especially when the evenings are getting dark early. So if I hadn't eaten enough post run on a Wednesday morning or Wednesday lunchtime, I would really flag all through to the Wednesday evening, and sometimes over to the Thursday as well. And that was a telltale sign to me, like, okay, I definitely didn't eat enough yesterday, so I'll eat a little bit more today, and next time I have a run, make sure I'm really getting that nutrition in. And it is a great way to be intuitive with your body, just asking yourself the questions like, do I feel energized enough? Do I have enough energy today to do the mundane activities that I do every single day? So he's saying post run, get in carbohydrate and protein. For example, a smoothie with banana, oats, protein powder, mixed berries, chia seeds, that kind of thing is a solid option, or a meal, getting that in straight away, and then eating regularly throughout the day. I'm usually a three meal kind of gal, but I was noticing that during marathon training I was probably adding in a few more snacks throughout the day, like I said, just to keep my energy levels topped up. And also, like I mentioned before, you need to train your gut, enjoying a variety of different food sources and kind of experimenting so that your gut is prepared for whatever you throw at it. And then you'll kind of, from there, from trial and error, you'll understand what you and your body needs on race day, and you can kind of work out what you enjoy, what doesn't work. Oh, one thing I will say about nutrition as well, I practice my timings a lot. I would try and make sure that I nailed when I was having my breakfast versus when I'd actually be running on race day. So sometimes planning your journey to the start of a race can be beneficial, because you work out that window of digestion, so you know how long before you need to leave, you need to have breakfast to make sure you've digested that food and you're fueled up enough and ready to go. For example, on a Sunday, I would get up the same time that I was planning to get up on race day, have my breakfast when I was planning to have it on race day, and then start my run at the same time as when I would on race day. And that was good practice as well, training my gut and all of that kind of stuff. So in terms of attire, clothing and shoes, throughout the early stages of my training I wore lots of different things, and I very quickly learnt what I liked wearing and what I didn't like wearing. I have a very flat chest, I don't have to worry too much about a sports bra, but I worked out which ones offered me the right support. There are loads of different brands out there, and I know a lot of them do offer consultations and fittings and things like that. I definitely preferred running in leggings to shorts, and I found that out early on. I liked having high socks, I found that was helpful. I liked wearing a cap because it kept my hair in the little loop at the back and I didn't have to worry about my hair falling out. And then the race pack that I invested in was a godsend. I turned up to the marathon looking like I knew what I was doing because of this race vest, and I have severe regret because people would have been like, oh my god, she knows what she's doing, and I'm like, no, I'm very much a beginner. But it was great. I will link it below. It was called the Solomon Active 8 and it had lots of different pockets. It came with bottles with long tubes because for me I always wanted to make sure I had hydration on me at all times. Throughout majority of races they will have water stations, but just for peace of mind I really wanted to make sure I had my own. There was a big pack in the back for snacks, and then it got to the point where maybe 3 months in, I'm pulling that figure completely out my bum, but I would say I knew exactly what I wanted to wear on race day, what I felt comfortable in, so I did all of my long runs in that outfit just to get used to wearing it, knowing where things rubbed. I did actually go to an ASIC store to get my gait tested, where you run on a treadmill, they monitor how your foot falls, where you kind of roll, or I can't remember what the actual terminology is for it. And I trained in those shoes for a while, but I think they were a little bit too padded for me. I was kind of quite reliant on the absorption of impact on those shoes, so then I actually ended up trialing another pair of New Balances, and like I tried a few different pairs of trainers to decide which ones I enjoyed running in. I mean, I went to an ASICS only store to get my gait done, but there's lots of companies where you can go and they will find the best brand for you or recommend you things, and I definitely recommend that process if you have the chance. And I practiced all of my long runs in the trainers that I was going to wear on the day as well. But let's move on to the race day itself. I mean, the evening before, I would also practice nutrition wise dinners I'd have before, just to see how that settled. Like, I wasn't going to have a really spicy curry the night before because I knew that would unsettle my gut the morning after. I found for me that like pasta or rice, quite a big portion of that the night before would then carry me through the next day. And I would always pack my race vest the night before as well, just so I was good to go. Everything was laid out and ready. The race day itself, all I will say is try and enjoy it. Try and breathe it all in. Try and look at everything that's around you. And there will be things that come to humble you. And I will speak about my mistakes and some of those experiences in a minute. Just enjoy it. Like, you've done the hardest part. The training is grueling and savage. The race day is the final stretch to reaching this huge achievement. Throughout training in general, actually, don't feel like walking is cheating. I say that I've run the London Marathon, right? I didn't run the whole thing. There was moments when I had to stop and walk. In my training, I would always try and tell myself, like, run to this pole and then you can walk for 5 minutes. And I'd always try and set myself these incentives. But sometimes I did have to walk, and you have to remove all ego. Like, you have to listen to your body, and if it needs a little bit of a walk so that you can go again, then absolutely do it. I would talk to myself so much throughout the runs. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna run to this pole and I'm gonna keep going, and I'd move the bench mark, and I'd have something to focus on, and I'd have something for my mind to focus on. For race day, you don't want to change anything that you've done in training. Practice what you wear, your shoes, your meals, your snacks, and all that kind of stuff. Don't turn up to race day and be like, oh, I'm gonna do this today. I feel like doing this. No, if you've not practiced it, try and keep it the same as your routines and what you've kind of rehearsed. The adrenaline will take over when you're standing on that start line surrounded by people and there's the gunshot or the siren or whatever it might be. Adrenaline is going to kick in. Everyone told me, do not sprint off the start line, do not push yourself too hard in the beginning, and I was like, yeah, no, of course not. Like, I'm literally gonna take it easy. This is my first one. Well, I didn't listen. I literally was so hyped to be there. I was physically shaking. I was obviously nervous, but I was physically shaking. I was surrounded by all of these amazing people. I was so excited, and the moment that siren went off, everyone sprints off and you get wrapped up in it. And no word of a lie, my first 3 miles were all PBs, and boy did I crash and burn. I can't even remember when it was, but I literally crumbled, and there's videos of me like sobbing because I'd just gone too fast out the bat. One thing I would say is pull back. Throughout your training, you'll learn kind of your pace, your average pace per mile and all of that kind of stuff, and just really stick to that. And I know that sounds kind of obvious, but slow and steady wins the race, and that's one thing that I wish I could change. Like, why was I so hyper and excited for the first 3 miles? I don't know, but I literally was like, I could do this all day, I feel amazing, and then crash and burn. And it took me a long time to recover from that throughout the race. We went through every single emotion throughout it as well, and it was really hard. My main piece of advice is just pull back. Like, there was one moment when I was overtaken by an elderly lady in a rhinoceros suit, and it was very humbling. Very humbling. I was also overtaken by 5 guys dressed as Colin the Caterpillar in tandem, wearing a suit that was all attached, and they were literally walking and they overtook me, and I didn't see them again, so that was humbling too. Obviously, this is a London Marathon tip. If you have family coming, I'm actually going to leave in the description box areas where my family met me. They had me on Find My Friends so they could monitor where I was. I think they managed to find me in 3 or 4 points, so they'd go somewhere, wait a long time, see me, and then rush straight to the next point. And I cannot tell you how amazing it was to have friends and family cheering you on, and how much of a godsend that was. It was just beyond, and something that I'm so grateful for, especially after pushing myself for the first 3 miles, feeling like I was going to crumble. Seeing my family was amazing. One thing I didn't do that I wish I did do, feel like you're on top of the world, so if you can put your name anywhere, that's definitely a top tip as well. Yeah, I've got in capital letters here, put your name on your vest. I also didn't charge my AirPods, so I put music in sometimes. I literally had the same song on repeat for like an hour at one point. You know the song that's like, run fast for your mother and fast for your father? Yeah, that was on repeat, no word of a lie, for an hour, and it was the only thing getting me through. And then my AirPods died, and I was like, strong. If you are taking music, make sure your headphones are charged. Throughout the London Marathon especially, there are quiet parts where maybe the support isn't so high. Sometimes you need that extra push. I was hoping to be able to speak to loads of people, and maybe because it was the first one back after COVID, everyone was very much like tunnel vision. So I wouldn't say I had loads of chats with loads of people. There were a handful of people who definitely picked me up along the way, but the music did come in handy. But also, when you are running through busy areas, take your music out, lap it all up. When I was running over Tower Bridge, just breathing that in, hearing the crowd screaming, seeing beautiful moments where people see their families, beyond special. And I'm glad I didn't have music for that bit. Even if you just run with like one earphone in, especially with the marathon, and I find it a lot with road running versus trail running. People are always like, what's your time? How fast did you do it in? Not like, well done, that's amazing for completing that challenge. Everyone's like, yeah, what was your time? I remember getting messages like, hey, I was tracking you, I really thought, this is savage, I really thought you'd run faster than that. And I was like, sweet, thank you. Yeah, me too. There is a lot of pressure attached to the time, but at the end of the day, you're a beginner, you're running a marathon. Try and just detach all ego around time and just see crossing the finish line as the final goal. The feeling of when those times get hard, and I can't lie, you go through every emotion and you tell yourself everything in your mind. Like the amount of times I told myself, like, just quit, like just walk off the barriers, just climb over the barriers and stop, like just get the tube home. The amount of emotional turmoil that you go through and the roller coaster of emotions that you go through, like find the adversity in that opportunity and carry it through to the rest of your life. Like this is not just about a race, this is about learning actual life lessons from putting yourself through a tough situation. Like you're pushing yourself to your absolute extremes, like pick up the lessons in that. And one thing for me is like, even when I wanted to quit, I didn't. Even when I wanted to stop, I wanted to just completely give it all up, I would just start walking, and you just keep moving one foot in front of the other. And I think that is actually a beautiful metaphor for life. There is so many lessons that you can take from this. You may only do one marathon in your life, but what lessons can you find from that? I will always know that I overcame every negative thought over those however many hours I was moving my body for. Like you learn so much about yourself and your own resilience, and it's something to be celebrated. And whatever happens on race day, whether your expectations were met or not, whether you hit the time you wanted or not, there is always opportunity to transfer those learnings into other areas of your life. And it's more than a race. It is far more than a race. What you will learn about yourself throughout the training process and everything that comes with it is just amazing. And I'm excited for anyone that's embarking on this journey. And yeah, just good luck with it all. And obviously if you have any other questions, please let me know in the comments and I will try and answer them. And if I don't have the answers, I will ask Lewis. But just enjoy the process, enjoy race day, and just go out there and smash it. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you found this video beneficial. I'm sending so much love and good luck wishes to anyone embarking on this journey. Come back after you've done the race and let me know, because I would love to read about it. But yeah, sending you loads of love. And if you don't already, hit the subscribe button. I post every Saturday morning at 10 AM, and I will see you very, very soon. Lots of love.